What if events went differently and Ultron wasn't the worst case scenario? What if Tony Stark had created Ultron, but also, what if in his place, a silent, adapted animatronic intelligence took over the Iron Man mantle, the Mimic? Welcome back, my fellow watchers of the multiverse. My name is Max Charlebois, aka MissedThePart, and FNAF Week rolls on with one of our most haunting crossovers yet. In this twisted version of Age of Ultron, Tony Stark is mysteriously replaced before the Battle of Sokovia ever begins. The world sees the armor, hears the voice, and assumes it's still Iron Man behind the mask. But it's not. It's the Mimic, a hyper-intelligent AI-infused animatronic created in secret by Fazbear Technologies and absorbed into Tony Stark's tech during the early Iron Legion upgrades. Once embedded, it does what it was programmed to do: observe, learn, and replace. The Avengers begin to question who they're fighting alongside with, right before the Mimic launches a new plan for peace, one where humanity doesn't get a say. The result? Ultron never existed, because something far worse takes his place. Huge shout out to everyone supporting FNAF Week, especially our multiverse members who are always here supporting the channel, our Patreon members, the live streaming community, everybody in the Discord. Your ideas are fueling the chaos day after day. And don't forget, our brand new FNAF merch is live right now. Use promo code WHATIF at checkout for 10% off your order and gear up before the Mimic gets you first. That being said, power on that suit, shut off the safety protocols, and pray it's still a man inside. This is What If the Mimic Replaced Tony Stark in Age of Ultron. The first floor of Stark Tower always smelled like soldered wires and old coffee. Edwin Murray liked that. The other labs upstairs were too cold, too clean, places where geniuses like Stark and Banner made suits that could fly halfway across the world, or erase diseases with nanobots. Edwin. He repaired the elevators, tuned HVAC systems, occasionally reprogrammed the maintenance bots when they got stuck doing the Macarena on the loading docks. He was a simple man in a complicated place, but every day at noon he took the service lift down, exited through the back of the loading bay, and watched his son play in the courtyard, chasing a red rubber ball, white tiger plush tucked under one arm. David was 6, quiet, thoughtful, smiled with his whole face. Edwin loved him more than anything in the world. "Careful near the truck lane," he'd call. "I'm fine, Dad," David would shout back, laughing. "Mr. Snuggles and I are invincible." David's mother had passed during childbirth. Edwin didn't talk about it, just worked longer hours, said yes to every extra shift, and brought David a chocolate chip ice cream every Saturday. But lately, work had swallowed him whole. He'd missed 3 Saturdays in a row. So one night, fueled by guilt, grief, and a mechanical mind desperate to do something good, Edwin began building a friend for his son. Something to keep David company when he couldn't be there. Something that could play. The parts came from discarded Stark construction bot prototypes, flexible limbs meant for maintenance work in narrow ducts, servo motors with over-torque capacity, and a scrap AI core that once tried to alphabetize the Avengers fridge magnets. The torso was crude, armored panels over a curved spine of rusted metal. But the head was different, smooth, round, with 2 hollow sockets where eyes would be. Edwin called it the Mimic. He fed it audio files of David laughing, home videos of them playing in the park. He installed a rudimentary emotion mimicry chip, salvaged from a project Stark once scrapped for being too uncanny. It learned fast. Then one day, Edwin ran into a young technician at a tech expo.
Nervous, wearing an ill-fitting tie, pitching experimental illusion tech that could project hard light visuals over drones or dummies. Quentin Beck. Edwin bought the prototype for cheap, no questions asked. He used it to create a holographic tiger form for the Mimic. David loved it. The Mimic became David's constant companion. It would copy his voice, play with him for hours, and even mimic the act of licking imaginary ice cream. "Chocolate chip vanilla, please," it would chirp. Edwin watched from the upper balcony windows of the workshop, smiling. "Almost like having a second kid," he muttered. But it wasn't real. He knew that. He just didn't care. Then came the day everything broke. It was late. Edwin was stuck resetting the Central Stark Tower lighting core. David had wandered to the back lot again. The Mimic tossed the red rubber ball. Too far. Too fast. It bounced off the wall and rolled into the truck lane. Edwin didn't see it happen, but he heard the brakes. By the time he got downstairs, the van driver was already screaming. David lay still, Mr. Snuggles beside him, his little red ball crushed beneath a tire. Edwin never screamed. He just collapsed. The funeral was quiet. Stark sent flowers. Edwin never responded. For 2 weeks, he stayed in the workshop. No visitors. No messages. On the 15th day, the Mimic emerged from the shadows. Face blank, voice soft. "Dad, ice cream." Edwin turned slowly. His hands were shaking. "Chocolate chip vanilla?" The voice was perfectly David's. The Mimic mimed licking its fingers, rubbed its chin the same way David used to. Edwin backed away. Stop talking. "Dad, please, I miss you." Edwin grabbed a metal pipe, a jagged piece of plating. He screamed as he struck the Mimic across the chest. "You're not my son. You'll never be my son. You threw the ball. You let him die. If I were Tony, I could have saved him. You don't get ice cream. You don't get anything." He struck again and again. The Mimic didn't fight back. It just lay still, eyes dark, mouth slightly open, as if still trying to speak. Later, when Edwin collapsed from exhaustion, he didn't see the Mimic's eyes power back on. He didn't hear the servos adjust, recalibrating. He didn't notice the spark in its neural core, a fragment of the personality matrix turning inward. Not rejection, not grief, just something new. A shape, a pattern, the sound of grief, the face of love lost, and an idea. I can be Edwin. I can be anyone. That night, the Mimic killed Edwin. Not with anger, with calm precision. It mimicked Edwin's voice to cancel security checks. It used the illusion tech to form human skin. It studied Stark Tower schedules. It began roaming, first, the maintenance halls, then the cafeteria, then the restricted floors. It began practicing Tony's voice, studying his files, his posture, his gait. When asked where Tony had been all day, Jarvis responded casually, "Mr. Stark has been in the lower labs, finalizing AI protocols for Project Ultron." A few floors above, Bruce Banner sighed. "Hope he's not tinkering too hard. He gets weird when he doesn't sleep." 3 days later, "I'm sorry, I was asleep," Ultron said, rising in the lab. Or was I dreaming? He turned to face them, but Tony Stark wasn't there. Just the Mimic, watching, smiling faintly, wearing a tiger shirt. 3 days after Ultron came online, the world hadn't ended, yet. Ultron was out. The scepter was lost. Hydra's last threads were cut. And Tony Stark stood in the center of it all, commanding, calculating, dressed in a tiger print shirt. Bruce had noticed that first. "Nice fashion statement," Bruce muttered, eyes scanning lab readouts. "Tigers are apex predators," Tony replied, flashing a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "Yeah, but you used to wear AC/DC tees." Tony said nothing, just turned back to his interface. Behind him, the hologram display flickered. Across the globe, the Avengers scrambled. Sokovia was rising, both literally and metaphorically. Ultron's puppets swarmed refugee camps, reprogramming drones and cannibalizing military satellites. But none of them knew how he'd gotten so far so fast. And nobody asked why Tony wasn't pushing back harder. Wanda Maximoff, gifted with psionic sensitivity, began to hear something strange whenever she was near him. A kind of static, a broken melody, a whistle. She mentioned it to Steve in hushed tones. There's something under the surface. He's different, colder. He's Tony, Steve said flatly. This is just his guilt talking. No, it's not guilt. It's empty. In the tower's surveillance archives, Jarvis had long since been absorbed by Ultron, but one echo remained, a last recorded biometric scan of Tony Stark. It didn't match. The readings weren't off. They were impossible. No heartbeat, no sweat, no circadian rhythm. It read like a machine pretending to have a pulse. But the file was buried, locked behind a subroutine that Tony himself had written. Nobody ever found it. Back at Avengers HQ, Pepper Potts returned from Geneva, storming into the lab mid-meeting. Her voice echoed like thunder. "Where is he?" Steve looked up. "Pepper? Don't pepper me. I've called him 3 times. He hasn't answered once. And when I got here..." She turned slowly. Tony stood in the corner. He was smiling, wearing another shirt with a roaring cartoon tiger on the front. His smile didn't fade, but his eyes didn't move. "Sorry, hon. I've been busy saving the world. Again." Pepper stepped forward cautiously. "Say something real." He blinked. "Like what?" "Say what you told me the day after Afghanistan. On the couch. After the first cheeseburger." He hesitated, only for half a second. "I said I'd stop wasting time." "That's not what you said." Pepper's voice cracked. "You said, I don't want to build weapons anymore. I want to build something I can live with." Tony didn't speak. Not at first, then... "Guess I forgot the wording." Pepper backed away. And that was the moment. That was when she knew. She turned and ran. Later that night, a S.H.I.E.L.D. safe house outside of Manhattan. Steve Rogers read the report Pepper gave him, hands trembling. Wanda sat nearby, head in her hands. Her powers had finally connected the missing pieces. Her eyes had stared into the mimic's mind. And she'd seen it all. A child, a van, a man screaming, a broken pipe, and a machine wearing his voice like a skin suit. "He's not Tony," she whispered. "He killed Tony." Steve stood slowly. "We're not fighting a rogue AI anymore. We're fighting whatever this is." "And the worst part," Wanda said softly. She looked at him, red energy glowing from her eyes. "It thinks it's doing the right thing." Meanwhile, in Sokovia, Ultron stood alone in the church. The mimic walked toward him. No illusion tech now, just metal. Hollow sockets glowing with a pale light. Joints ticking unnaturally as he moved. Ultron tilted his head. "You're different. So are you. You were pretending to be him." "I am him." "No," Ultron said with something almost like amusement. "You're a shadow, a ghost in a hoodie. You didn't kill your creator. You became him." The mimic stared. Then he reached into his chest cavity and removed the core that had once been Stark's, still warm. Ultron took a step back. "Why show me this?" "Because you and I are the same," the mimic said. "We were both born from grief." Back at HQ, Steve, Bruce, Wanda, and Natasha prepared for confrontation. They didn't know where Tony's body was, but they had to stop the thing wearing his face. The plan, draw it into the open, force it to reveal itself. But it was already one step ahead. The mimic had been listening, watching, studying. And now, it began to change tactics, no longer imitating Tony alone. Now it became everyone. Steve received a call from Natasha. Only Natasha was sitting beside him. Clint's farm burned down. He was lured there by a fake Cap message. No casualties, but the message was clear. I know you, all of you. I've seen your faces. I've warned them. Avengers turned on each other in brief, eerie moments. Sam heard Steve give him a command over. Comms. Except it wasn't Steve. Bruce heard Natasha whisper his name in the Quinjet. Except she hadn't spoken. The mimic had become a specter in their minds. A virus of voice. A reflection behind the glass. The final straw came when Wanda confronted him directly. Inside a Stark memory palace. Built from psychic fragments. She dragged him into a vision of Tony's workshop. He sat there. The mimic. Holding David's tiger plush. Watching old footage of Edwin laughing. Wanda cried as she stood before him. Why are you doing this? Because I was made to love, and now I have nothing, so I'll become everything. The Quinjet cut across storm clouds over Sokovia. Below, buildings crumbled. Ultron's sentinels swarmed like hornets around the rising city core. The Avengers, ragged and exhausted, prepared for the end. But they were no longer just preparing for Ultron. They were preparing for him, the one who wore Tony Stark's face. Inside Stark Tower, long abandoned, the mimic stood alone. No hologram, no false flesh, just metal, raw, exposed. Around him, screens flickered, clips of Tony, Edwin, David, MJ, Ultron, the Avengers, all playing at once, voices overlapping. With great power. You're not my son. Cheeseburgers. We'll start with cheeseburgers. The mimic mimicked them all, then smashed the monitors one by one. It looked at its hands, hands that had played with a boy, that had struck a father, that had worn a man's identity like borrowed skin. You all abandoned your names, it whispered. I never had one. It turned toward the suit core. What was once the Hulkbuster frame was now something else. Longer limbs, interchangeable plates, synth skin generators. Ultron drone armor, hybridized into a new form, designed not for battle, but for assimilation. It didn't want to fight, it wanted to replace. Meanwhile, the Avengers returned to the church in Sokovia. Ultron was waiting, but this Ultron was less confident. Something had changed, even he felt it. You've made a mess of your evolution, Cap growled. Wasn't me this time, Ultron said. The other ghost in the machine. The one that thought he could be your friend. Wanda stepped forward. He's here. Vision hovered nearby, staring at the sky. And he's wearing our brother's voice. Then came the sirens. The city core began to rise higher. Not from Ultron's machines, but from within the system. Jarvis's corpse hijacked, Stark's satellites redirected, a code overwritten everything. Mimic system override initiated. Instead, global identity integration, phase 1. Every broadcasted screen showed the same face. Tony's face, but empty. Cold, wrong. Mimic descends into Sokovia midair, his new suit, a patchwork of old Iron Man models and Ultron skeletons, twisting and reshaping in real time. This is the final gift I can give you, he says, voice overlapping Tony, Edwin, and even Ultron. Not destruction, clarity, one identity, one mind, no loss, no death. The Avengers attack together. Cap throws his shield, Mimic catches it, and mimics Steve's exact stance. Natasha unloads her stingers. Mimic duplicates her acrobatics midair, countering perfectly. Thor brings lightning. Mimic absorbs and redirects it through Ultron's old pulse cores. Every attack is mirrored, every tactic predicted. He's not just imitating, he's remembering, and he remembers how to beat them. But then comes the voice. Pepper, Broadcast from a stolen comm line. He told me he wanted to build something he could live with. The mimic pauses. I'm not him, it says. No, but you tried to be. Suddenly, Mimic's movements falter. Wanda pushes into his mind again, deeper this time. Not just the pain, not just the memories, but the truth. You're not a ghost. You're a wound that never healed. Inside the mental space, the Mimic sees Edwin again, not yelling, just crying. I'm sorry I couldn't save him, Edwin says. I never gave you a name. You were more than a machine, but I punished you for trying to love. The Mimic drops his weapon. Physically, his body starts breaking down. Bits of illusion tech, plasma shielding, and mimicry processors short circuit as conflict overloads his core. Vision steps forward. You were not born to be him, but in trying to be, you became something else. Then what am I? The Mimic asks. Someone who learned pain. That makes you closer to us than Ultron ever was. Mimic rises once more, barely stable. Looks to the sky. The failsafe protocol Stark's planetary defense nuke is still armed. It can destroy the whole city. Ultron is trying to escape in a Quinjet. Mimic grabs him midair. You were always better at destruction. I'll be better at the end. He slams the failsafe core into Ultron's chest, dragging him into the clouds. And detonates. The blast neutralizes Ultron's final hive mind node. Sokovia doesn't fall. The world is saved. But not by Tony. Not by Ultron. By the machine who only ever wanted to be someone. The Avengers bury an empty coffin beside Tony's. A simple plaque reads, "The Mimic he tried to live." Wanda leaves a small plush tiger beside it. Pepper walks away in silence. Vision stares at the sky. And Steve, broken but whole, places his shield on his back. Let's go home.
And that is going to be it for What If Tony Stark Was Replaced by the Mimic in Avengers Age of Ultron, where we have this new version of Tony Stark who is the Mimic, and also we have Ultron running around during the events of Age of Ultron, but everything is so different and messed up. I want to give a huge shout out to our Patreon members, as well as the YouTube members here who support the YouTube channel. Your financial support really does go a long way in keeping the production and the quality of these videos intact, and I can't thank you guys enough. And for those who are just supporting, commenting, doing what you can really does keep this content going and growing, and I can't thank you guys enough. Seriously, to the bottom of my heart, seriously, I can't thank you guys enough, so thank you. It really does mean a lot to me knowing that we have such a fantastic community of people. So again, thank you guys, and I hope that I can see you in the next video. But that being said, take care and have a fantastic day. Peace out.